All right, it looks as though we are live and beginning our first um, teleconference as the Library Commission. And so I will begin the meeting as the chairperson, calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the Library Commission's July 20th meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Library Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. So at this point, we will have the roll call. And so I would like to have a moment to introduce staff and Library Commission members present. And since we have 3 new members of the commission who were recently appointed, I would ask that each of the Library Commissioners take a brief moment and introduce themselves and their interest in the Library Commission. So just for the interest of how do we go with this, why don't I just call on people one at a time, and both the new members and also the more senior members, we will each just introduce ourselves to the rest and maybe give a sentence or two about why you decided to be a part of the Library Commission, okay? So how about we start with our most senior member first, Kristen Leap.
Hi, I'm Kristen Leap, and I grew up in Menlo Park, going to the library all the time, and moved back like 14 years ago, and I taught at Belhaven, which is attached to the Belhaven branch of the library that I used a lot. And actually, I have a Menlo Park library card from when I was 5 years old. So it's like 34 years old, which is really special. And now I teach kindergarten, so the library maintains a very important place in my life. And so I'm interested in, or I was interested in what was happening and what's going on. And it's been really interesting to be involved over a period of time. I think I'm in like year 5 or 6 or something. I'm not totally sure. And for my first year, just as a note, for my first year, I felt like I had no idea what was going on. And especially since, you know, one of the things we're working on is the new library. And there's a lot of history with that. So don't be worried if you feel like you have no idea what's going on. That's totally normal. And ask questions and get the information that you need, because you know, the rest of the commissioners have learned a lot in their years with us. And I remember some stuff that has led to, so I've been on the Library Commission for a lot of the bringing up to the development of the new Belhaven Library. So so I know some stuff. I also, there's other stuff I don't know, but anyways, next person. Sorry.
Thanks, Kristen. Okay, Alan, how about you introduce yourself and your continuing interest in the library?
Sure. Thank you, Katie. My name is Dr. Alan Cohen. I'm a pediatrician, a lung specialist, a former faculty at Stanford. I live in Menlo Park now about not quite 15 years, and moved here from the East Coast with my my family. Big supporter of public libraries and public education. So this has always been something I've been interested in, and I guess I'm a fairly regular user of the library. So as such, I got increasingly involved in what was going on, and here I am. Pleasure to be here, and looking forward to working with all of our new members and continuing to work with Sean and colleagues at the library.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, David, also a senior member of our commission now. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, if senior means 1 year or so, yeah. So yeah, David Earhart. I live in Belhaven. My wife and I moved here 4 years ago, and really, sort of jumped into being involved with the community here. There's a lot of history in Belhaven, and one of the things that's been evolving is the development of a need for something beyond the Belhaven branch library here. So that's been an interest in I think from the community standpoint to make sure we get that sort of brought to fruition. Obviously, with the Facebook offer, it sort of changed the complexion a little bit, but very interested in representing the Belhaven community and supporting the library needs and the community here in this side of 101.
Thanks, David. And I'll take a moment to introduce myself as well to the new people, just so you know all of us before you are asked to speak. My name's Katie Hadrovich. I've been on the commission for 2 years. When I was appointed, I think I was appointed to fill a unexpected vacancy. So my commission term was 2 years, and I was recently reappointed with the 3 new members. And I think my commission now is for 4 years going forward. And I've served as the chair of the commission for this past year. And I have been a resident of Menlo Park for 20 years now. June of 2000 is when I moved to Menlo Park with 3 very small children, an 8-month-old, a 23-month-old, and a 6-year-old. And I can tell you that the very first thing I did, having come from New York State and not knowing a single person in the entire state of California, was I went to the library with my children. And the library was definitely a second home as they were growing up and meant a great deal to our family. And so now I have 3 adult children. In fact, today is my daughter Ella's 22nd birthday. And my younger daughter is 21 and my son is 26. So they are all adults. The library and I raised them. And as they were leaving my home, I decided to get involved in civic affairs a little bit in a way I never had done before. And being on the library commission just seemed like the natural first step, because I did love the library so much. What I can tell the new people is that I have met so many people in the past 2 years that are all Menlo Park residents, passionate Menlo Park residents, passionate with a lot of different issues, but everyone is passionate. Everyone involved in my civic life in Menlo Park that are Menlo Park residents are not people I knew before I joined the Library Commission. And my life is much richer as a result of getting to know all of these people. And I can tell you that I started sitting in on city council meetings around the time that I became a commissioner. And the very first one I sat in on, just about everything confused me. And I consider it a little bit more of a victory that the very last one I sat in, when Ray Mueller gave his State of the City address, I was checking off in my head, yes, I know about that. Oh yeah, I know about that. Yes, I know about that. Oh, I went to a meeting on that. And so I can just say personally that I feel a much deeper commitment to my city. I feel a much more vital role as a citizen because of my time on the commission. I feel like I know a little bit more about how the library works, but I welcome you to the Library Commission, and I hope that you will have a very great, maybe profound, and feeling that you are part of something vital, even if we are at a commission meeting where it's just us at the commission meeting. So welcome to all of you, and I'm so glad to have you here. And having said that, now I'm just going to go in the order that you're listed, and I'm going to ask Mayrin if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and why you joined the Library Commission.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mayrin Bunyagit. I'm also a teacher. I teach first grade at Beechwood in Belhaven, where I live. I've been a resident of Belhaven for, I think, since 2010. I have a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, and not only enjoy, the library for my students, but also now as a mom, the last few years enjoyed having access to both libraries in both areas, and also the wonderful opportunities within the library itself with the different programmings, and just wanting to be part of that group now, that conversation of knowing that there'll be a new project, a new, building, multi-generational building with including the library in Belhaven. So it'll be nice to be part of that conversation, and got to know, I think, Sean a little bit more through city council meetings the last few months. My son also goes to the preschool in Belhaven as well. So I learned a little bit in a short amount of time about things that are going on in the city, and so I wanted to be part of that kind of conversation and enjoying, even though we are now, at home, all of the cool opportunities that the library has been putting out for us still being in quarantine, with like curbside pickup, getting seeds, utilizing the community libraries. And it's cool to see now as a mom and as a teacher how to utilize the wonderful library resources we do have, and to really maximize that for the community.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome. And now, Sukanya, would you like to talk a little bit?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sukanya Guha, and I teach, I'm a guest teacher at the district, Menlo-Park City School District, and I have my teaching credential, but I've been staying at home with my kids for the last few years. So I just got back into guest teaching for the last 2 years, and it's been going great. And like everyone else, I spend a lot of time at the library, or I used to till this whole COVID-19 began. But that's one of the main reasons I really wanted to get involved with Library Commission, because I love hanging out there with my children. And as a teacher, I wanted to see whether I could do my bit and make some kind of difference, because I know that reading is really important, and a lot of kids don't read as much as we used to when we were little. So each time I see a kid passionate about reading, that makes me really happy. And I would love it if some kind of programs were developed in the library just for school-age children. And yeah, so I am looking forward to working with everyone and learning from everyone over here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. And last but not least at all, Yen Tran.
Hi everyone, my name is Yen Tran, and I live in central Menlo, I guess, over by the main library on Laurel. So we've been here for about 4 years, and I usually do Zoom meetings during the day, so the lighting is better. So sorry about the lighting here, I was really interested in joining the Library Commission because I do use the library very often. We live very close, so we usually just walk. Over, so we use it very often. I also work as an academic librarian, so I'm really interested in sort of seeing, what some of the differences are, sort of between how academic libraries work and how public libraries work. So I'm really interested in all of that, and interested in joining the community that I'm living in, and contributing back to the community that I'm living in. So I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Wonderful, thank you. And thank you all for your commitment to the Library Commission. I know I appreciate it as the chair, and I'm grateful to all of you. Okay, according to my notes, I have also the staff present include Sean Reinhardt, the Director of Library and Community Services, Adrian Lee Bird, Assistant Director of Community Services, and Nick Sejda, Assistant Library Services Director. Nick is also the staff liaison for Library Commission. And I see we have, I think Nitu is here also. Is anyone else from the staff here? And I don't know if each of you wanted to say something about your role, or if that's not necessary. Sean, did you think for the benefit of the new people, we should just have a quick comment or two from each of you?
Sure. So yes, Sean Reinhardt, Director of Library Community Services. So wonderful to see everyone again or to meet some new faces after the pause from COVID-19. A little bit about me. I've been in local government for 20 years. Got my first job in the year 2000, so I never forget it. It's an easy number to remember. And the Fremont Library as a library clerk. That was the time when libraries were changing quite a bit, although they're always changing. And I found that I really loved it, and I had a lot of thoughts about how the library should be adapting to those changes. And I realized I found my career calling, went on to do some additional service at other libraries, including the City Public Library, did a stint at Santa Clara University Library. So again, I know a little bit about academic libraries. And then for 10 years, I was the director for the Hayward Public Library. One of the major accomplishments there was to build a new downtown library in Hayward that opened in 2018, which was great. Wonderful facility. Also, for 8 of those years, I directed a combined department that was library and community services there. Community services in Hayward was more defined about various social services. And then 2 years ago, I came to Menlo Park, which was amazing. I love Menlo Park very much. I came in as a library director, which has been fantastic, has done a lot of great things and worked with so many amazing people, including the Library Commission during that time. And then let's see, a little more than a month and a half ago, in response to the kind of devastating financial impacts of the current recession and COVID-19, the library department combined with the community services department here in Menlo Park. Community services in Menlo Park, it really encompasses like the parks and recreation activities. And so, although it was under kind of difficult circumstances, it was such a wonderful thing to work more closely with folks like Adrian and the rest of the community services team, and to find ways that we can use that synergy to serve Menlo Park even better, even through this difficult time. So just wonderful to be here. So happy to be working with you. And I think I'll turn it over to Adrian and Nick to introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, Adrian Lee Bird. I've been with the City of Menlo Park for 2 years. I'm really excited about the merge, and it's really wonderful to hear you all talk about your passion and advocacy for the library. That's amazing. Shout out to the teachers. My husband is a teacher. My office is actually at Onetta Harris Community Center, so very passionate about bringing some great stuff throughout the city. And Alan, I wish I had a cake background, but nice to meet everyone.
Hi, my name is Nick Shegda. I'm the Assistant Director of the library. I've been at the Menlo Park Library for a long time. I started as a library page in 1992 when I had graduated from film school in LA and came up here to Northern California. Since that time, I've worked through various roles in the library in Menlo Park, and worked at a few other public libraries in the area. Went back to library school at San Jose State and got my master's degree, and have been a longtime reference librarian in Menlo Park, and have been the assistant director for 3 or 4 years now. Is that right, Sean? I can't quite remember. Maybe Ronnie Singh will know. She's our business manager. She's in the
like that.
She's in the audience as well. I think it's about 4 years I've been the assistant director. Love libraries and all they can do for communities. Been a lifelong library user. Family loves libraries. Really believe in the important work that libraries do, and glad to be working with all of you on the Library Commission. We have some exciting things coming up when we can get out of this shelter in place. Some really cool things coming, and some really great things that we can provide for the community as the Library and Community Services Department. And that's enough about me. Neetu Sawan is here too. She's the Assistant City Clerk, and she's riding shotgun so that if I mess up, she can help me. She can help me unmess up on this Zoom webinar meeting. So, but she didn't want to give a spiel for herself. So that's all. If you have any questions, I'm the commission liaison. You can always email me and ask me questions or send me a text.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Nick, would you please provide instructions to the Library Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Great. I think I did a little bit of this in our pre-meeting, but just quickly for everybody again. Library commissioners should keep their cameras on and their mics off. If you want to raise a point or make a comment during the course of the meeting, please raise your hand and then wait to be recognized by the chair. Then unmute yourself and make your comment after you've been recognized. For members of the public, I'll go through a little rigmarole when we get to each public comment, but basically there's a little raise hand icon that you can click if you want to raise a point or make a comment, a public comment at the appropriate point during the meetings, and the chair will call for public comment at that point. You can also send me a message in the chat window if you have a public comment to make. I think that's about it. If there's anything else that you guys, commissioners, have questions on as we go along, please raise your hand and ask your question. And then I'll come back and sort of provide some information. Sean and I and Adrian are here to provide information for you as you work your way through the items on the agenda.
All right, thank you, Nick. And so now we are at the point in our meeting for public comment. And so I will just remind the commission and the members of the public that under public comment, the public may address the Library Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Library Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The Library Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Library Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. So staff liaison, I believe that's you, Nick. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Looking amongst our 4 attendees, if anyone has a public comment for an item not on the agenda, please let me know in chat or press that little hand icon so that we can recognize you. And I don't see any public comment or raised hands. Nope. Okay.
All right, well, in that case, we will proceed to our regular business. Under regular business, the Library Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require the Library Commission approval. And item D1 in our regular business is to elect a commission chair and vice chair for 2020-2021. Did I say 20 too many times? And so my notes tell me to introduce you, Nick, once again to introduce this item. So I believe you've got a little presentation to give us.
Yeah, just super quick. Normally commissions elect a chair and a vice chair at their May meetings. Because the May meeting was canceled, as were the March, April, and June meetings. This is the first live meeting of the commission since the year sort of turns over. So basically what we do is the chair will open the floor to nominations. You can nominate yourself or another commission member for chair or vice chair, and then we vote. I tally the votes, and then we go from there. Chair and vice chair serve a 1-year term. And if anyone has any questions, please ask, and either Katie or myself can help you out. Sorry, the city clerk is telling me the commission selects, not elects, the chair and vice chair. So it's good to have the city clerk in attendance to correct me. So hopefully she's not here in all my meetings, because the list will grow very long of all my missteps. So selecting the chair and vice chair. That's all I've got.
Okay, and so my notes asked whether or not there are any clarifying questions from the commission before we take public comment on this issue. So does anyone have any questions for Nick or to clarify anything he said? No? Okay, in that case, Nick, I'm going to ask you to call for public comment.
If there's any public comment on this item, please raise your hand or let me know in the chat window. Seeing none, there's no public comment.
Okay, if that's the case, then I'm going to open this for Library Commission discussion, open the floor for nominations for Commission Chair, and then open the floor for nominations for Vice Chair. I will say that given how disjointed this year has been, and it's not over yet, that I am happy to continue as the chair of this commission if you would like me to do that. That said, I'm also very happy to hand the gavel, which I no longer even get to use while we're on teleconference, to another member of the commission. So I think we start with asking if we have any nominations for the commission chair.
I nominate you.
Okay, we've heard from Commissioner Kristen Leaf. Anyone else?
I second that.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other? No? Okay, well, yes, Sukanya, thank you for raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd go with you again.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so Nick, at this point, I guess it doesn't seem that anyone else wants to step in this role. And I've heard from-
Does anyone else want to step into the role?
just also, Kristen, just raise your hand. Let me recognize you for this, just so we aren't all talking at once. And so go ahead, Kristen.
Sorry, I figured it was worth asking. Like, is there anyone else who wants to step into the role? And then we have to like leave a little silent.
Okay, so at this point, do I need to ask for someone to nominate in second, or do we consider what just happened that already, Nick?
I think that was a nomination and a second right there. So now you can call for a vote for Katie Hadrovich to be selected as chair of the Library Commission.
Can we do that by a vote, by hands, all in favor? Put your hands up, or do people?
I think so. If you'd keep them up, I'm sure our city clerk will correct me if that is incorrect.
Okay.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see a unanimous.
Okay.
Katie
So,
Hadrovich.
Yay!
thank you, thank you. Anybody opposed? No. All right. Well, thank you all for the vote of confidence, and I'm happy to continue in this role at this point. So that said, we're going to open the floor for nominations for vice chair, and I personally would love to nominate David Earhart to be the vice chair. I don't know if anyone else feels differently. Please, at this point, go ahead and make your nominations.
I second.
Okay, Kristen second. Anyone else want to nominate anybody else? Okay, in that case, can I see a show of hands? David, did you have any comment, or is that okay?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I appreciate the selection.
Okay, in that case, all in favor of David serving as the vice chair, please show me by a show of hands.
And if you could also, the city clerk tells me also to state aye for those who can't see the screen who might be in attendance.
So do you want us all to take off mute and everyone says aye at the same time?
I think so. We could go through on a roll, but I think I can figure out who's saying aye. And
Nick, I think it's probably easier if you just say this person says aye, this person says aye.
Great. I can roll through if you want, Katie. Okay, and that's probably clearer. You're right. So roll call, they tell me. So Chair Hadrovich, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Bunyagid, did I get it
Aye.
right?
Correct. Aye.
Great. Commissioner Earhart, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Leap, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Tran, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Guha, how do you vote?
Aye.
Great. That is a unanimous vote for David Earhart to be selected as vice chair of the commission.
All right, excellent, wonderful. Thank you all for your vote of confidence, and hopefully we will move very efficiently through both this agenda and future meetings. So at this point, we are at D2, approve minutes from the January 27th, 2020 Library Commission meeting. Again, I'm going to ask Nick to make a very brief verbal presentation. Only commission members who were in attendance at the January meeting can vote to approve the minutes. And I know that we don't have a quorum of, we don't have 4 people on the commission now who were at that meeting. So Nick, maybe you can give your presentation and just touch on that issue.
Sure. My presentation is going to be about 2 sentences long. For the new commissioners, at the beginning of every meeting, we vote to approve. The commission votes to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. This gives us a chance to sort of correct any mistakes I may have made, or to clear up anything that was not captured in the minutes. The minutes are action minutes. They're not transcripts of the previous meeting. So I'm not going to be taking verbatim text reports in the minutes. It's going to be actions and what sort of actions the commission took. In this case, it's a little strange because we have commissioners who are no longer on the commission who were present. Normally, you need to have, according to the Brown Act, a quorum of commissioners present to take any action, and for this commission, that means 4 of 7. But in this special case, and because you can only vote to approve minutes at a meeting you were at, we're going to have fewer than 4 going to be voting to approve these minutes. And then the city clerk is going to help me how to word that when I put them in the minutes for this meeting. So that's the only reason. Normally when we do minutes, you're not going to hear from me. That's the only reason I'm sort of making a little presentation on this. So Katie, I believe, or Chair Hadrovich, I believe it was you and Commissioner Earhart and Commissioner Leap who were present in January. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's my recollection as well. And taking a look, I reviewed those minutes again today, and that was who I saw was present that are still on the Library Commission. I can tell you that looking at those notes today, at least for me personally, they were vaguely familiar because our last meeting was actually in January. That said, we did try to convene a meeting in February, and unfortunately we did not have a quorum at that meeting. And so we had to abandon it, cancel it at the 15-minute mark. But I had reviewed the minutes in anticipation of that meeting, and I recall that I had no corrections or changes to them at that time. So I don't know if David or Kristen recall differently, but to the best of my recollection, those minutes are accurate. And so, David, Kristen, I don't know if either of you had anything different that you wanted to state about that, but I am looking here and I am seeing that I need to ask if we have a public comment on this issue. So although I've already given my remarks, I'm going to go ahead and backtrack a little and ask if there is a public comment on this issue.
Again, if anyone in attendance has public comment that they'd like to make on this item, please either raise your hand, that little hand button, the blue hand button, or type me a note in the chat window. Seeing none.
Okay, so I apologize. I'm trying to look at the camera and read my notes as well, and I am a little bit rusty at this, but okay, as there is no public comment, I will just refer to what I said right before I asked for public comment, and then I'll open it for Library Commission discussion. So David, Kristen, do either of you have any comments related to the January minutes? I'm seeing Kristen shaking her head no. David, did you have any comment or no? Okay, you're also saying no. So So Nick, would you please state the motion for us?
Sure, the motion is to approve the minutes from the January 27th Library Commission meeting as presented.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a motion and a second stated motion? Kristen?
I move that we approve the minutes as stated from the January meeting.
Great. David, would you second that?
Second that.
Okay, thank you. Staff liaison, Nick, would you take a
Yes,
roll call?
Sure.
Stated motion?
To approve the minutes, Commissioner Leap, how do you vote?
In favor?
Commissioner Earhart, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Chair Hadrovich, how do you vote?
I vote in favor as well.
The motion passes 3-0.
Wonderful. Okay, we are now.
I'm sorry, the motion passes with Earhart, Leap, and Hadrovich in favor, all others abstaining because they were not present.
Correct, thank you. Okay, we are now on item D3 of our agenda, which is to review the subcommittee report on the Library Commission work plan, and that is staff report 2020-005 LC. So Nick, you are going to make a very brief verbal presentation recapping the process so far, please.
Great. So back at the end of last year and the turn of the new year, the Library Commission normally creates a 2-year work plan, but the commissioners felt that because circumstances had been changing rapidly with the proposal from Facebook for the new Belhaven Community Center and Library, that they needed to take another look at their work plan and update it. So this report started in, I think, end of 2019, moving over into the beginning of 2020. Commissioner Earhart and Chair Hadrovich were on the subcommittee. They went off and did a little bit of work, and we're going to bring it back to the commission in March. And that's the report that you primarily see before you right now. However, things have changed quite a bit again. And so you may want to, not to put ideas into anyone's head, but the commission may want to discuss forming a new subcommittee and taking a fresh look at the Library Commission's work plan. The existing Library Commission work plan, I believe I attached to the report. It's also on the Library Commission website with a link. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Okay, at this point, do we have any public comment on this issue?
I do not see any hand raised amongst our 4 participants, nor do I see anything in the chat window.
Okay, if that is the case, then we would open this for Library Commission discussion. I will just, hopefully you've all taken a look at the attachment to the agenda that is, I think, is it Appendix C-A? Sorry, yeah, Attachment A, which is a 8-point work plan recommendation that David and I worked on with Sean and Nick. I think we met 2, maybe 3 times, but I think we just met 2 times on this. And we were planning to bring it back to the commission for hopefully a robust discussion of it in February. Certainly at the time that we were drafting this, our expectation was we were going to be discussing it with people who had been a part of the old work plan and saw maybe some of the problems that were in that. Certainly we're in a very different situation now that it's 7, 8 months later, and we have a almost totally different library commission. And so for those of you that are brand new to it, you know, I don't know if you took a look at our old work plan or not, or what your what your comments are. We would certainly, as a subcommittee, welcome your comments on it. If we do need to go back as a subcommittee and work on this a little bit more, I know I would be willing to do that. And I believe, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, that we can have actually 3 people on a subcommittee, right, as long as we don't have a quorum of the commission. So in the event that we do want to kick this back to a subcommittee, and there's someone else that's interested in being a part of that, we can do that as well. So those are just comments based on where we were and what we were doing back when we drafted this. So now I'll, again, David's raising his hand. So I just remind you, if you want to make a comment about this, raise your hand. I'll call on you, and then hopefully that way we're not all talking over each other. David, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a question for clarification. The Appendix A appears to have the same page twice. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something there.
I saw that as well. Yeah, Nick, do you want to
Okay.
clarify for us if that was a mistake or if there's some subtle difference we didn't pick up on? Why there's 2 attachments that have the exact same? They're slightly different in formatting, but appear to be the exact same information.
I think that's just staff error on my part. So
Okay, I was
that's all
just
it
making
is.
sure I wasn't missing some subtle.
No, it's not a comment. It's not a
Okay.
comment or anything. It's just an error.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So did anyone else want to ask questions about it, or do you feel like there's any glaring omissions, or any comments at all? Because we really were, at the time we were interrupted, planning to come back, show it to the commission, maybe get feedback, go back to subcommittee, but hopefully move forward. So I welcome any and all comments on this. Kristen, go ahead. Oh, did you have a comment? No. Okay, you just approve of it. All right. Anyone, any comments? Okay. So at this point, David, Sean, go ahead.
Just from the staff's perspective, I'll just point out that I believe the commission annually prepares a work plan. And, at any point in time, the commission could revisit the work plan. So,
Right.
Don't feel like this is your one and only opportunity to go over this or discuss it or suggest changes to it.
For the new people, again, I can only speak from my own experience, but I know for a fact, had I been asked to comment on the work plan or criticize it in my very first meeting as a library commissioner, I would have felt the ground moving underneath me a little bit. So, really, when I asked that in a very humble way to say, if you see anything that you always thought maybe should be a part of what the Library Commission is doing and it doesn't seem to be there, we welcome your comments always about this, and hopefully we are able to put together a solid work plan that reflects all of our interests and advances the work we do for the library. So David, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to kind of build on that, Katie, if I could. When we sort of started on this, revisiting it, there was a great deal of benefit to be had by being exposed to the sort of the chartering for the commissions, and I think some of the work that went on to arrive at the list we have now reflected, balancing this broad comment you just made, Katie, about anything that the commission should be doing that you don't see them doing, with in fact kind of the boundaries of the lane in which the commission is intended to operate. So I think for any of the new commission members, there's probably some benefit from reading some of that information to kind of get a better understanding of what the scope really is. And in my first year, it kind of came in the latter part of it to be exposed to that, but there was some benefit in that. So I think I would recommend reviewing that in light of that, to sort of then look at the 8 points and assessing the completeness or lack of it.
That's a great point. And also, although I wouldn't necessarily say you have to, if you went back and looked at our former work plan, I think it's I hope it's a fair comment to say that it was a very confusing and complicated document. It had a lot of information in it. I think some of it was more appropriately related to the work that the staff does, that there were some elements of it that were checklists of what they had accomplished. And I think that what we tried to do is put together something that was more directed towards the work we do and a standard we set for ourselves, so that we feel like we're moving forward. And if there's any other comment, that's great. If not, it looks like, according to my notes, that what we would be maybe doing is looking for a motion to adopt this as our work plan. And again, oh, I see. Yes, go ahead, Yen. I see you've got your hand raised. Ellen, did you want to speak also, or no?
I was just pointing to Yen.
Yes. Oh, she's not.
It's like the Brady Bunch here. Sorry.
But on my screen, she's right next to you. So I did.
Oh, well,
you know,
so there.
if I'm ignoring you, it's only because I'm trying to do 6 things at once. So really, just go ahead and be a little obnoxious. That'll flatten my attention much.
I don't think you want to offer that. Again, I'll make like I didn't hear that. Let me mute myself.
Yen, I apologize that I didn't see your hand. Please go ahead.
No, that's okay, no problem. I guess I'm wondering, with the current situation that we're in, if there is something that we would want to add into this particular work plan, right? Because it looks like it was created back in March, before, you know, all of what's currently happening. So I'm wondering if there's something about what's happening that we would want to add in. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm just wondering if that's something that we want to consider.
No, that's a really valid and great comment. In my mind, as soon as you said it, you sort of opened a door that I hadn't been thinking about. But I think it's a great point to say that given that we don't know how much longer we're going to be living in this pandemic world, to the point of whether or not what we do and what we facilitate is addressing perhaps the pandemic and what the library services are and how they are adapting and being utilized in that way makes a lot of sense to me. Was that what you were getting at, is how the Library Commission's work is factoring in the pandemic and how it might be compromising or affecting in some way the library's role in the community? Yes. Okay, Nick, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, if I could also just add, there are some other changes that have been going on. The library and community services departments have merged, and the combined department will be embarking on a strategic plan for the department, and we will really need the input of both of our commissions, both the Library Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission, as we go about developing and finalizing that plan. So that's something else that you might want to fold into your work plan in the coming.
Well, you know, taking both of your comments into consideration, to my mind, what makes the most sense is maybe to reconvene the subcommittee at least once more to try to draft, using the information from what Nick's saying, into our thoughts, and maybe add another element, either weaving the fact that we're dealing with COVID into one or more of the 8 points we already have, or to actually create another point. And so I see Kristen's hand is up, so go ahead, Kristen.
I was just thinking you could just put something as simple as like support the library through the COVID-19 pandemic, like, you know, as it operates in a different way, like, you know, something like that.
Yeah, it may be something that simple. It might be something a little more nuanced or a little more complicated, but I think as a member of the subcommittee at this point, I would feel very comfortable reconvening the subcommittee at least once to just discuss this and see what we can weave into it. And also, to that point, I don't know if, Nick, you're gonna have to tell me if I can do this or not, but given that we are discussing the work plan, is it appropriate within this agenda to discuss whether or not we change the membership of the subcommittee?
Sure, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
You can make a motion to reform or reform a new subcommittee and also reconsider the strategic plan, the Library Commission's work plan in light of recent changes. I think that could be a motion. Sean looks like he has something to
John,
say
go
on
ahead.
that.
Yeah, and I know the city clerk is sort of lurking on this call, so she'll chat if I'm incorrect here, but I believe the chair can just appoint a subcommittee, so you don't necessarily need to like do a motion and second and take a vote if you want
I see.
to close
Okay,
the
so
subcommittee.
okay, so let me ask first, David, are you able, and however your life has changed, to continue working on the subcommittee if we were going to try to meet and just and revisit this in light of COVID? It's amazing to me looking at this document that doesn't seem that old, that it was written before this was on our minds in any way, shape, or form. So David, at this point, would you want to continue on that subcommittee?
Sure, happy to.
Okay, and great. And so is there anyone else, one or more people that might be interested in being on the subcommittee? Although we can only have 3, I know. What I'm wondering is, if there are others, if there's more than one person that's interested in being on it, we could certainly think about changing who was on it so that we only had 3. Yes, Sean.
Just point of clarification. It is possible to form a subcommittee with more than 3 members. However, then it would be subject to the notification requirements of the Brown Act. Must be a noticed meeting, like made available to the public and so forth, and that can kind of make it just not function like a subcommittee, which is to just dive in and do the work.
Yeah.
That's why the 3 is a better option typically.
Yeah, and I agree with you, just for efficiency, because we will bring it back and talk in the full meeting. But having said that, please just put your hand up if you are interested in being on the committee. I see Yen has her hand up. Anyone else interested at this point? No? Okay. So if that's the case, given what Nick and Sean have said, I'm going to use my chair's authority to announce that we will have, an addition to our subcommittee, Yen Tran is going to join the subcommittee, and she and David and I will perhaps do a Zoom meeting with Nick and Sean at some point between now and the next Library Commission meeting to see what we can do about incorporating the current overwhelming issue into the work plan. So if that's the case, then we will put aside doing any voting on the work plan right now. Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that takes care of item D3 on our agenda. Yes? Okay. And so, great. Yen, thank you for diving in. I look forward to working with you on that. All right, now we are at D4, which is review Belhaven Community Center and Library project updates. And we will have a brief verbal update from staff on the current status of the BHCC and L project.
Great. I guess I'm going to take it because Sean didn't unmute himself. So though you're welcome to, Sean, if you'd like to take the update.
And it just said from staff. It didn't give an
I think that's because Sean and I hadn't worked out who was going to do the update. So this is sort of a standing item for the Library Commission. So we don't really have any special updates. COVID-19 has, as it has with many other things in the world, sort of delayed and changed the project. The city and Facebook are still meeting weekly at least on the project, and it's moving forward, but it is being delayed somewhat by the COVID-19 situation. So not a whole lot more to update the commission at this time, other than that it's being delayed somewhat as we get more information about the process, and we will absolutely come back to the commission and report, because the commission's input is really vital to the process going forward. I don't know if Sean, if you had anything else you wanted to add to that.
No, I think that sums it up quite well. The only thing I would add is that it's anticipated that there will be some additional sort of like public engagement here within the next month or two, because we've sort of plateaued as far as like COVID adjustments. And at this point now, commissions are reactivating, at least virtually. And so the prospect of doing like some community engagement through virtual means seems appropriate and timely at this point.
Okay, and I see Kristen's hand is up. So did you, go ahead.
So they haven't started working on any like building plans or anything, because that seems like something that people would want to be involved in.
Right, so the great question. The Planning Commission had been scheduled to see an initial building plan. I want to say that was in early April. I can't remember the exact date. It was after the shutdown. And so when the shutdown occurred, obviously the Planning Commission meeting couldn't occur. And so then the whole project was just sort of delayed at this point. So no plans have actually been submitted for public review. And at this point, it's a little bit of a reset because so much time has passed.
Sean, would you mind just clarifying for me? As I recall, Facebook was going to come to our April meeting. And so when you're mentioning the planning meeting, I know all meetings got, obviously, you know, they disappeared. None of these meetings happened. But can you just, from my recollection, were they going to go in front of the Planning Commission prior to coming to us? So was the expectation that the order of events was to appear before the Library Commission and give a public information before or after going to the Planning Commission?
Great question. So as I understood sort of the roles of the various commissions as they were conceived at that time, which could have been a million years ago, right, yeah, before the pandemic, was that the Planning Commission really is the body for approving plans and things like that. And so that would have been their role. The Library Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission were seen as having the role of community engagement in the project, community feedback and input into the project, and obviously the advisory input from those bodies, the Library Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I don't think the order the sequence was necessarily that critical, as long as they kind of happened around the same time frame. The Planning Commission presentation, as I recall, was not even going to be an approval at that point. It was more of an initial kind of vetting. So
and was the
I think it was just the timing of when the meetings actually happened, and I can't remember which was scheduled first.
Was the Library Commission, though, my recollection of whether or not Facebook was going to come to a Library Commission meeting, and I hope that in however we can do that now, I'm still, you know, trying to imagine how we do a rollout of the type of meeting we're doing now, but is there an expectation that they will come in the future to a Library Commission meeting? And then is it a presentation of what is going to happen, or is it going to be some sort of opportunity for people that are concerned about the libraries to give some comment or feedback or public, you know, comments in some way that then goes, that gets factored in any way to the plans?
I think it's a little of both, right? Like there are some just sort of fundamentals about the project that are kind of already determined, like the location of the facility, the more or less the scope of it, what it will contain and what it won't, as far as like the different components of the community center and the senior center and the library. I think those things have already been determined. The general size of the facility, things like that. And then, but at the same time, there's also clearly, you know, the Library Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission have valuable input that must be a part of the design as it's refined going forward. And so certainly the expectation is that at least one presentation of the design at this commission and the Parks and Rec Commission would happen. Whether or not Facebook presents it, or if it's staff, you know, or maybe just the architects, I don't know. You know, who exactly would do the presentation, but it would be, you know, of the design, with the intent that to gather feedback and suggestions from the commission and members of the public who attend that meeting, you know, in the course of making the design final.
Okay. All right. So if everyone, just to keep us on track of this, that was the point, that was the part of our meeting where we asked clarifying questions to staff before taking public comments. So did anyone else have a question just to clarify their understanding of the staff reports before we move on to public comment? No? Okay. In that case, staff liaison, do we have any public comment on this item?
If anyone wants to make public comment at this time, please either send me a message in the chat window or click that little blue hand signal, and we will recognize you and hear your public comment. And seeing none from the two folks who are still hanging in with us, thank you.
Okay.
There's no public comment.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have public participation in this, even if there are no comments. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. That said, all right. At this point, I'll open it for Library Commission discussion. If anyone has, if we want to just talk about this issue at this point in sort of the absence of any information. Does anyone have any comments or anything you want to talk about now? No. Okay. If that is the case, then it looks like we are going to move
Hang on a second. I'm sorry, Commissioner Hadrovich. Commissioner Leap looked like she had a comment she wanted to make.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I looked away. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead. Thank you, Nick. Actually, it's perfect if you draw my attention to that if I don't see people. Go ahead.
I was willing to let it go. I just want to make sure that we get to see the plans, and you know, because and I know that like people like Menlo Parkins are going to want to be able to see the plans. Like, given all of the meetings that happened at the main library and how many opinions everybody had about what the new library would look like, I know that people are going to have lots of strong opinions, and I think that it'll be important to make sure that they're incorporated, like in particular Belhaven residents. But since we're all online, everyone will have the opportunity.
Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, okay, Alan, go ahead.
I just wanted to add on top of Kristen's comment that, you know, it's quite possible that we're unfortunately going to be sitting here doing this 12 months from now. That said, things are going to be moving along, but we're going to need to continue to adopt to the new reality of how we're perhaps going to be convening and running meetings and how the public will access information, et cetera. There still may be good times for construction to go on. You know, if it's safe for employers and builders to be there in a limited way, it's almost a good time to do it, because if the facilities aren't being used, it's actually a really good time to be doing construction. That said, I think what Kristen said is actually very important, and that all we would ask in this committee, I think, and the people who look to us to represent their voices would be that if things are going to move forward, and it's quite possible that we're adopting to change, that the process be laid out in a broad enough way, in a usable, functional way, with enough advance so that people feel that they have the opportunity to be heard and weigh in, and not just receive information, but be a part of it. And it may very well need to be in public forums that take the form of something like this Zoom call. So I think, you know, and I know that it takes a lot of extra planning, it takes a lot of foresight, but it's quite possible that that may very well be much like the, you know, the proposed goals and objectives of this committee need to really be put into the reality of what's going on currently and what may continue to go on for some time, I think this aspect also needs to be considered. So I think Kristen's point's actually a very good one, and it sort of goes without saying, but perhaps having it in the record and sort of acknowledging that an adoptive methodology with wider spread way of sharing this information. I like to think that the public in our community has more access to Zoom calls and can get on, and that's access to computers. Yet tonight we find ourselves, even 4 months after last convening a meeting, with only 3 or 4 people being able to attend. You know, one would hope that a way of informing the public, making sure that, you know, I just worry that the underrepresentation is not a reflection of people's lack of interest, but rather their lack of awareness. And I just want to make sure that moving forward, if we do these or meetings like this moving forward more often, that there be an overwhelming attempt to try to engage as many people as possible through a variety of venues and settings and methodologies, so that if people are genuinely interested in wanting to receive information and being part of the discussion, that including ourselves have a chance to do that. That's all.
Yeah, great points. And I know I'm nodding along and taking a quick look. It seems that everyone is nodding in agreement. I think the things you're saying and that Kristen said are very sensible, and it's good to say them. And to that point, I will say I've participated in a couple of the Zoom calls that this city council has done. I'm sure, you know, all of you have maybe participated in at least one as well. And I've seen a lot of people are tuning in and participating and asking questions in those. So I think that we do get a robust turnout for some city events, that people in our city are comfortable with this format, as comfortable as we can be. And, you know, Nick mentioning that we have 2 people still hanging in with us, that's not out of the ordinary from even when we had our regular meetings. So I will say, just to touch on this point for a minute more before we move to the next agenda item, I would ask Nick or Sean to correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anything in the news or in city council meetings or anything that there have been any public movements on this issue. So that really, I think that the COVID kind of took us all by storm and knocked the sails down a little bit on this project in terms of public presentations and information that was going on. So I don't think, I really don't think that there's been anything going on that we've missed or that has been an opportunity to discuss it. But to your points, absolutely, the citizens of Menlo Park are super interested in this project and have a lot to say about it, as evidenced by all the comments that happened at our meetings and any city council meetings related to this project before COVID. So I expect we will get updates, and hopefully we will get some opportunity that the public would tune into the Library Commission to hear exactly what the plan forward is for the library. And so if anything that the 3 of us have just said have raised something that you want to clarify or touch on, Sean or Nick, that would be great. Otherwise, we can move on to the next agenda item.
No, I think you've captured it pretty well. If there's anything to present, we will bring it to present, and we will do a good job of letting everyone know that there's something new to present so that we can get as much participation as possible. That's really the whole point. You don't want to sort of be making decisions about such a major asset for the community in the dark. You want everybody to be at the table. You want everybody to know what's going on. And I think you characterized it correctly. It's just been sort of knocked off kilter by the COVID crisis. The city council went into, you know, adapting to the crisis mode and passing the budget. I think as things continue and start to settle down a little bit, the attention will go back to the priorities that they had set before the crisis, and this was right. This Belhaven Community Center and Library was right at the top of their list.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'll just add quickly that this is one of the top priorities set by the City Council this year and in the past year. And just for the benefit of the new commissioners, when we did the previous Belhaven Library Space Needs Study, we did a citywide survey, got 900 plus responses. There were a number of meetings that, especially we had one at the Senior Center that was, had great turnout, dozens and dozens of people. And so I think as this, and there hasn't really been any activity on this specific project for the past 5-6 months because of COVID. As that restarts, I would anticipate the attendance and the engagement to pick up as it was before.
All right, thank you both. Thank you very much. All right, next item is D5, review and update the Library Commission agenda calendar. So I hope you all I have it here printed out, and if you have it in front of you or you have, you're able to pull it up. But any clarifying questions from the commission before taking public comment on what we are talking about when we say the Library Commission agenda calendar? Anybody? No? Okay. Okay, Nick, do we have any public comment on our Library Commission agenda?
We don't. If you'd like, I can share my screen and we can take a look at it together. I think this is one case where I know I said at the top of the meeting or in our pre-meeting that I wasn't going to be sharing the screen a lot, showing staff reports, but I think this is one instance where it might actually be useful. So if that's okay with you guys,
Yes.
I can share.
And also for those of you that are new, I think that this is actually something we started doing during the last year, where we review the entire year's calendar at every meeting. And it's been really helpful for us to have a little parking lot area for us to, if we suddenly find ourselves with a very crowded agenda, move things around. But I thought that this is a very effective tool for us to get through all of the things that we want to discuss and cover. So, and it is a sad thing to be taking a look at it and seeing how the first part of 2020 really has played out, in that we weren't able to hold our meeting in February, and then the next 4 meetings were canceled. So, but taking a look at that. Okay. I'm sorry, Nick, did we already ask for public comment or didn't we yet? You brought it up on the screen, and have we had?
We didn't yet. If
Okay.
any members of the public would like to comment, type a message to the panelists in the chat window or click on that little blue hand function and you'll be recognized for public comment. Seeing none.
Okay. So if that's the case, then now we will open for Library Commission discussion of the topics for the rest of the year. I see Sean's hand raised. I have one comment, and the only comment that I would like to make before, maybe you're going to address this, is that I see that the meetings for February through June were canceled. I'm curious, I don't have it in front of me, what was on our commission agendas for all of those months, and whether or not things that were on those, if they are still relevant, have they been moved onto the rest of the calendar or not? Because without them in front of me, I don't know how we talk about where they might be reallocated. And so go ahead, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, that is the case. It's basically staff just kind of pushed everything down here for the commission to have a look at. And the other thing I was just going to say is that this is a helpful agenda item just for Brown Act purposes, since it encompasses pretty much the entire year of what the commission will be discussing. It gives commissioners the opportunity to say, hey, I want to talk about this or that other issue on an upcoming agenda, so that it can just be added to the list of either unscheduled items, or the commission can decide, oh, hey, we want to address a specific topic in a specific time frame, in addition to being kind of a nice tracking tool. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's one of the utilities of having this on your agenda. Kind of open discussion about anything you want to add to future meetings.
Okay, and so just my question about all the things that had been on our agenda that then, because we didn't have meetings, we weren't able to discuss. Are those things pushed down here into the July through unscheduled future items? Or,
Yes.
so everything, we're not missing any of those things. They've just been, they're all.
Correct. They've just been kind of
And I didn't.
peppered throughout the rest of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm admitting that I didn't do my homework on that because it didn't dawn on me to go back and look at what the old agendas were. David, I see your hand. And oh, let me just mention, everyone, while we're sharing Nick's screen, I no longer can see everyone that is on the commission because I can only see 5 people at a time the way my computer is showing this. So if, Nick, are you able to see everyone, that if someone else raises their hand, you can call attention to them? David
No,
just happens to be.
No, I can see 5 as well. And that's the sort of the danger of, I'll keep scrolling through the participants,
I can
the
see
panelists.
everyone.
Let's do this. We'll have David talk, and then if anyone else has a comment, I'll just ask for comments and you can unmute yourself. And if there's more than one person, we'll take them in order. So David, go ahead.
I can see everyone.
Oh, great. Okay, so if you can see everyone, then maybe Kristen can just keep us apprised if someone else has something to say. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just propose that we, as we discussed, we're having the subcommittee meeting on the work plan, that for the August 17th meeting, we have an update on for that, since it's going to be relevant at that stage of the game.
Yeah. Do you think that it's feasible for all of us to? What I think is we could maybe put it as on the August schedule, and then if for some reason we're not able to come back with a work product in time for the August 17th meeting, then we can do it in September. But our goal will be to report back by August 17th. Does that seem doable to you, David? And what do you think?
Yeah, well, I guess my thought there, obviously having a timetable maybe makes things more, prominent in our schedule, but also since the addition we were talking about was potentially associated with the COVID-19 response, the sooner that kind of gets on the list, probably maybe the more beneficial would be in terms of the rest of the committee activities.
I agree as well. I think Nick will probably send out something to the 3 of us to see whether or not we can meet up via Zoom in the
Absolutely.
next week or 2, right? So.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Yen, hopefully we'll all be able to get together soon. So I agree with David. It makes sense to have to look back at our work plan in August. Absolutely. And I think just taking a look at these, I think the services to the seniors and homebound, it couldn't be a more pressing issue probably. I mean, everyone is homebound sort of now, but certainly there are some people that are probably really just not able to leave their homes in a way that they might have been in the past. So discussing that, I think definitely has some urgency.
So Commissioner Cohen has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Alan.
Sure. The only thing I was going to include there is, it's not really clear what's going to happen to kids in public schools, and the impact that potentially has on access to school materials and books, et cetera, at home, and how the library may actually serve as a surrogate for shut down schools if the kids aren't able to return. So I was just going to suggest that as we're thinking about this in the context of seniors and other people who are homebound, I would include within there, which may very well be a large catchment, unfortunately, is children attending schools.
Well,
so preschool kids all the way up, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, actually when we get through with this, our next action item on today's agenda is the Library and Community Services Department update. And Sean, you may or may not be giving us updates related to how services have shifted in the pandemic. But if you are going to be covering that, then we are we're going to know a lot more about it in just a few minutes. If that is not something that you're addressing specifically, then it does seem to me that it's a very appropriate topic for us to put in the August agenda, not just services to the seniors and homebound, but touching on what Alan said related to kids, and certainly just how the library services, what is the demand, what's the changing parameters of your thought process, what is, how does the library best serve the community in the pandemic, and the problems you're facing, the issues, the challenges, all of that great stuff. So you can just maybe comment now if you're about to touch on all of that in the next agenda item, or if it is an appropriate thing to do a report on for August.
So no and yes. No, I wasn't planning to address that in the next item. The next item is like just an informational update. So it really just consists of that written report that was sent, and then just answering any questions commissioners may have. The idea is just to convey that information in writing that's contained in the report in the next item. And yes, it makes perfect sense if the commission wishes, and I think I agree, to go ahead and put that on August's agenda, and then staff, we can report out a little bit more in depth and have a more in-depth discussion about it.
That would be awesome. Okay, I see that Mayrin has her hand up and David also does. So why don't we go to Mayrin first and then David?
Yeah, so like along the lines of what Alan was saying, like for August, if we're able to have a conversation about, because knowing that I think because the Belhaven branch is connected to the school, which will be closed, that will impact what the families at Belhaven will be able to get if the families at the main were able to get other things outside of I know right now we're doing curbside, but if there are other, I know at the Belhaven they had, tutoring, for example, or other programs like what that would be a great conversation to have at August if possible too, or if this is something we talk to with community service. Yeah.
No, that's excellent point. Yeah, I think that for sure we might even get a lot more people that want to come to this meeting and hear what is being said too, if we're addressing the pandemic pivot to a certain extent. So, okay, David.
So just on that, I think I'm kind of hearing two items there. One is just sort of library services and support for K through 12 schools in the context of like all online learning, which it kind of looks like it's heading that way. And then the second is really services in the Belhaven neighborhood if the branch library remains closed because of the school. I mean, they're connected, but they almost sound like two items. So maybe we'll reflect it like that on the agenda.
Oh, sure. Thank you. And my brain was too foggy. I didn't really make note of that distinction, but you always do. So I'm grateful for that. And that's great. That's a great agenda item, Mayrin. So thank you for bringing it. David, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really kind of a question and clarification from staff. I know throughout the Menlo Park Council meetings, the budget conversation, and I know the PLS membership came up several times, and so that we have that item on there about the ILS and the interlibrary loan service. Is that still germane given the current budget situation, or is it needs to be reframed in terms of the current situation?
I am so glad you asked that because in fact the City Council did vote on July 14th to notify Peninsula Library System of our intent to withdraw on July 1st of 2021. And in the meantime, to issue a request for proposals for an integrated library system, which is the online library catalog and patron records management system, and interlibrary loan service, which is borrowing books from other libraries so our patrons can read them and other materials. Because those are the two main components that PLS provides. And so that is germane in August because that's sort of what council directed us to do.
Thank you.
Would the report that you might generate for that would be part of the public record to look at and also for our own edification, would it give some historical context to this program and, then why, what the factors that went into the council decision to terminate that contract starting in July of next year so that we all understand the whole issue a little bit better, and also the public understands it a little bit better.
Yeah, so that'll basically be, catching up on the communication and reporting that would have been done with the Library Commission had you been meeting during that time frame. And I think that would be contained in like the background section, which would be a little bit lengthier than your typical background section, just to bring everyone up to speed on that. And then moving into the actual meat of it, which is the RFP portion. So that's how we're kind of thinking we'll frame the report, just so that everyone has that background.
Yeah, I think that would, I mean, for me, that would be really helpful. I know these budget crises suddenly came up and decisions had to be made, so that we maybe we're just looking at something that's already in the rear view, but still I think it's helpful for me on the Library Commission, and also just the public in general when they're talking to me about it, for us to have a much better context of this is what happened and why it happened and what the history of it is. So that would, I think that would be terrific. Anybody else have any other comments related to our calendar and our agendas coming up?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then Nick, I hope you've taken good notes on everything that's going to be coming in August, and we'll.
Yes. Would you like me to read back what I've got, just so that I can make sure that I captured it? Are you guys okay?
I think that would be helpful. I would appreciate you reading it quickly.
So adding to the August agenda calendar, the Library Commission work plan report from the subcommittee, services to support K through 12 school children, sort of a general COVID service response from the library update, and then also a report about services in Belhaven if the branch library remains closed. And then at the very end there, you guys talked about the RFP, but that's already on the agenda calendar for
And then I'm assuming that we kind of have a tentative always discussion about the library and community center project, so that if there's any new developments, anything happening, even if there's some talk about whether or not we would be having some visitors or some information at a future library commission. I mean, that's sort of a standing agenda item, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we can put it as a standing agenda item, but I just sort of assumed that if anything came up, we would bring it to you guys first. So it's going to pop up in the department updates at the very least. But if you'd like it to be on the agenda calendar, we can stick it in there too, just as a reminder. That's fine.
I think maybe it doesn't need to have everyone weigh in, but in my mind, it's a good thing to always have on our agenda, because the people of Menlo Park are always interested in this. And so the fact that we put it on our agenda every single time, even if it's just to say there's no real news, shows that it's top of mind for us at all times. So to my point of view, we should always have that as a bullet item.
Easy enough to do. Yep.
Anyone disagree with that or feel like we should be doing something differently? Okay. All right. Okay, let me just end D5 by saying, does anyone else have any other comments related to this agenda item? No?
I would just add that what the commission just did was a proposed agenda calendar and mapping it out for the year, but just pointing out that sometimes things come up between like now and the next meeting that the chair may deem need to be added to the agenda, or just from the standpoint of agenda management, if the agenda starts to get too unwieldy, the chair does have the discretion to say, well, we might need to adjust, the sequencing or the timing of when certain things come forward. So just to kind of put that out there, that that it remains a bit of a living document just based on circumstances that may arise.
That's a really good point, and for all of you to know, because I actually did not know this until I became the chair. Usually Nick will reach out to me about a week or two, I think, before our meeting, and just review with me really quickly what we're going to be discussing on the agenda, and he'll point out to me, oh, it looks like we probably are not going to get to everything, or is it, or this came up, and so I didn't realize that back before I was on the chair slot, that's how that sausage gets made a little bit. So, but for now, those look like all the things that we would have on the agenda. So, Nick, I'm seeing something about us having a motion and a second for the stated motion. Do we need a motion
I
related?
don't think you need a motion and a second for this. This is just an internal kind of planning document. It's not,
Yeah, okay,
it's not
so
necessary.
I didn't think so. I thought I could.
That's just me sort of copying and pasting that section after each item, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but you know what happens when you assume, so better for me to ask. Okay, next is E, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the Library Commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the Commission. Informational items are not action items, however. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. So, Nick, do we have any public comment on this item, our informational items?
If anyone wishes to make a public comment on the information item, please raise your hand with that little blue raise hand icon, or type a message to the panelists in chat, and we'll recognize you for your public comment. And seeing none.
Okay. In that case, we are doing a Library and Community Services Department update, staff report 2020-006-LC. Hit it.
Well, and as I mentioned a little while ago, generally we try to make this report relatively thorough in writing, transmit it to the commission, and basically just answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that said, does anybody have any questions? No. Okay. Okay, if that's the case, then we are going to move on to commissioner reports. And I don't see a question about public comment, so I guess we don't have public comment on this, Nick.
No, this is just a place on the agenda for commissioners to report back. Sometimes commissioners serve on other city or community boards or organizations, or sometimes they have other things that they'd like to bring to the attention of the Library Commission. And that's just sort of a standing slot for that kind of report. Anyway.
And so on the agenda is actually, I have been flagged to give a report. Nick wrote this report. Nick wrote the agenda, not I, but report on Library Foundation board meeting. So let me preface that for the people that are new too. We do sometimes go around the horn, particularly the later it is in the night, the less likely we all want to stick around and do this. But, when I first joined the Library Commission, we went around and everyone said the book they were reading or something like that. So I thought that was a nice little part of Library Commission reporting, because we get to know each other a little bit and we can share something. So when we get to this portion, there may be some things on the agenda, and I think I want to say we talked about this at our last meeting, our last January meeting, of actually trying to flag and organize the people that were going to have a follow-up report to jog memories and give people some notice that they were expected to come back from a meeting and report on it. And we all thought that was a good idea. So my name appearing here, report on Library Foundation board meetings, I think actually comes out of the product of that last meeting, saying, let's take a look at some of those things and try to keep ourselves on track from one meeting to another. And so I think having those formal commission reports me telling you about the Library Foundation, for example, is probably the best way to go forward. But that after that, if you have taken a trip or you do have a book you're reading or something that you want to share with the commission that is a slightly more personal note, but related to the functioning of the Library Commission and us knowing each other better, please feel free to raise your hand and tell us about something that has sparked your interest, because I would love to know that about you. So that said, a report on the Library Foundation. For those of you that are new, I am also a member of the Library Foundation Board of Directors, and I was asked to step into that role. I want to say maybe back in October. I think that I know that I was sworn in as a member of the board 2 minutes before Sean told us that Facebook had stepped forward with a generous offer. So I think that was in the fall, and I served on the foundation board. And I believe also that the tradition has been that a member of the Library Commission is on the board of the Library Foundation. And so I think when I came on to, there might have been a year where there wasn't someone that was on both because the person that had done it had rolled off. So I've been a member of the Library Foundation since the fall. And the Library Foundation primarily is a fundraising organization, a volunteer fundraising organization that dedicated to raising funds for the library. And so although the Library Commission has not been able to meet because we do have the Brown Act and we have to do things a certain way, the Library Foundation has actually been meeting via Zoom for quite a few months now, I think. We might have had a month or two where we were just as disorganized as everyone else, but we do meet monthly. Actually, I think we meet weekly. But that said, there's not really an update because the Library Foundation, just like the Library Commission and just like everybody else, is kind of waiting to see what's going to happen next. And so both Sean and Nick attend Library Foundation meetings with me. They can certainly, I would welcome them piping in if I am overstating what's going on. But the Library Foundation has had some meetings. We have had agendas. We have tried to move forward and discuss things. And we do discuss things like the Seed Lending Library, which is just fabulous. And I actually have some things growing in my backyard that are because of the Seed Library. I think it's fantastic. The Library Foundation also sponsors the poetry contest. And I want to say that the poetry contest recipients event happened maybe since our last Library Commission meeting. Do you recall, Sean? And
I believe it was the poster exhibition.
Oh, the poster exhibition, that's right. Well, the poster exhibition took place at the Belhaven Library. It was a fantastic event, really wonderful. So many kids and their families showed up. It was a spectacular event that I was really proud to be a member of the Library Foundation, the Library Commission, a member of Menlo Park, a citizen Menlo Park, and it was just great fun to be there and see all the kids that participated in that contest, and also see the Facebook folks there, and just the partnership that exists and that brought that about. So that was also something that kind of went through the Library Foundation. Another thing that's been happening, and the Library Foundation was aware of it and got a little credit for it, I think, and it hasn't been mentioned yet tonight, but is worth mentioning, is the fabulous solution to the holds on the library, at the library problem. And so I don't know how many of you took part in this or were aware of it, but we had all these holds sitting on the shelves in the libraries that people couldn't come to get. And at one of our foundation meetings, Sean said to us, well, we have a really exciting idea. that we're going to buy those books for the people that have their holds, and we're going to buy them through Kepler's. And I think that the Friends of the Menlo Park Library are the ones that wrote the check for that, but the foundation somehow was involved in some way. We got some credit for it. And
Your customer relations management system kind of facilitated the orders.
yeah,
Yes.
and so, I mean, bravo to the Menlo Park Library and to the Friends of the Library that worked so hard to sell those books in the little bookstores at the library, because I thought that that was a really wonderful outreach for the community and to help people who otherwise would not be able to get their books. And Sean, I don't know if that was your brainchild or not, but it really was a wonderful program. And I was excited to know it was going to happen and then to see it being rolled out. And so, you know, that's our library in action during the pandemic. While we were still trying to figure out what to do, something really wonderful got done. And so I knew about that because of the foundation. So anyway, there was one other thing. I didn't want to correct the January minutes because the January minutes were not incorrect. But there was a little bit of a change going forward from what we decided in January that's just worth noting. And Kristen, you may recall this, that at our January meeting, we decided that I was going to be the liaison for the Library Foundation, and then Kristen was going to reach out to, I think, be the liaison to a couple of our other library partners. But after that meeting, I think Kristen talked to Sean. I talked to Sean. There was a problem with it was a little bit more of an undertaking than Kristen had time for in her schedule. And so Sean asked me if I would be willing to be the liaison to some of our other partners as well. And I was happy at that time to say I would do it. And then, you know, the world changed. And so we haven't had those outreaches. And although I'm moving backwards now, that might be something we would put on the agenda, because certainly if someone else that's now on the Library Commission was interested, we can actually have a library meeting where we talk a little bit more about our partners and affiliates, other library agencies. There's all different words. I want to use the right one. I know Sean's thinking the right one in his head, but we do have other organizations that we are connected to and we know a little bit about, and it would be worthwhile for the new members of our commission to learn about them in the same way that those of us that are already on the commission have had the opportunity to do. And we do try to create a little bit of a network of goodwill with us knowing what they're doing and them knowing what we're doing. And so, you know, there are opportunities if any of the people that are new to the Library Commission wanted to be the affiliate with one of those, you could. So sorry, very long-winded commission report. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm done now. And if anyone else has anything that they would like to contribute, please just raise your hand.
But just on that last point, we can add into the department updates report just a quick summary of the Library Foundation, the Friends of Menlo Park Library, and Literacy Partners, which are the 3 nonprofit organizations whose missions are specifically to support the library or those programs. And then a 4th affiliate, which is not directly connected, but is sort of simpatico, if you will, and uses space in the main library, is the Historical Association. So it's generally those 4 groups.
Yes, and probably I'm certainly thinking, you know, the Friends of the Library does give money to library programs. They're a great supporter, and they must be taking a huge hit right now because no one can come in to buy the books that they sell. And so, you know, there may be repercussions for how effective all those different groups can be. So I think it would be really terrific if there was a way to give a brief report on all of them. My assumption is that you all know as little as I did coming onto the commission. I don't mean to insult you. I only take for granted what I did and didn't know when I was coming in. So if you know a lot more than I do when you're coming on, that's wonderful. I strive to be more like you. But if, like me, you're a little bit confused by all these different names we're rattling off and who they are and how they relate to us, that report will hopefully help you. So did I see somebody else had a hand up real quick? Yes, go ahead, Maylin.
Oh, I just, on the note of you were saying some of the different programs and things that are going on currently, it would be, I guess, for our next meeting, nice to figure out, I guess, as kind of in the perspective of a community member, but also a teacher, if there's a way for us to find a way to, I know you can go on the website to see things that are offered, you know, curbside, you know, loaning out books, the seed program. But if there's other, I guess, now knowing that in the near future, we're going to most likely be in remote setting for K-12. If we can find other ways to do outreach so that, I know as a mom and a teacher this summer looking at things, like I was able to find information like, you know, the summer reading program, but a lot of it was through web-based. So if I found myself like forwarding things to other teachers, so a way we could outreach to like schools or librarians in particular, then they can outreach, just so that I feel like we have so many great resources, but maybe not everyone who might really need those. Like even, for example, ABC Mouse, I found out using your library account, you could get a free month subscription. And that really helped out a lot of the families that I work with that couldn't afford to do a regular subscription, just as an example.
That sounds great. And actually that could definitely be woven in maybe to part of our pandemic, you know, pandemic central work. How do we shift in thinking a little bit more about remote? And Sean, that actually reminds me that I know you and I have talked a little bit about the website, and you know, I feel like every time I've brought something up, you've reminded me that, oh, it was on the website. And didn't we talk about doing something that was a little bit more of a introduction or debrief on everything that's on the website at some point? Does that sound familiar to you? Because I feel like we did talk about it at some point in some conversation in the past few months, but.
Sure. I think it's sort of an ongoing thing because there are so many services that the library offers, and now the library and community services really. So that, you know, it's always kind of interest to kind of learn more about them. You know, especially when a meeting's only once a month. It's, you know, it's just more information that can be absorbed in the context of a single meeting. So there's a few ways to go about that. We could kind of figure that out for the next agenda. Certainly adding an informational item about those 4 other agencies that I mentioned earlier. We could potentially work in maybe either some presentations or a little bit more in-depth reporting out on you know, kind of what are those services, or maybe some like a list or something like that.
How have you pivoted at all with that really great magazine that you had? I mean, I'm using the word magazine, but the library publication that used to go out, is that still being sent out to people in Menlo Park? Is it still being produced, or has that kind of?
Well, it was on hiatus because it was really built around like the events. It was like an event newsletter that went out every 2 months. And so for the past few months, we just kind of didn't do that. But that's a topic of conversation in the overall department. So on the library side, there was a bi-monthly newsletter that went out. And then on the community services side, there was a quarterly activity guide that went out. And so we're looking to get back on the horse to issue something this fall, probably encompassing all of it.
Got it. Okay, Kristen, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I've found your like Facebook presence and events and announcements to be super helpful. And I've like shared them with students.
Yeah. All right, anyone else, any other commissioners want to tell us the vacation you didn't take this summer? Anything like that? If not, I guess we've gotten to the end, and we can adjourn and go our separate ways until we get together again next month. So again, I would just say welcome the 3 new members. I'm really just so glad to have you on our commission, and really looking forward to getting to know you a little better and working with you over the course of the next few years. So thank you. And be safe, everyone. Bye-bye.